Every single thing on your screen right now was written in a language you have never spoken. The app you are watching this on, the server it is streaming from, the algorithm that recommended it to you. All of it written in code. But here's the thing nobody tells you. There are over 700 programming languages in existence, and most programmers do not actually understand most of them. They just pick one, learn it, and hope it works. Here's something they never teach you. The computer does not understand code. It never has. It only understands zeros and ones. So how did we get from zeros and ones to artificial intelligence? The first programmer in history was a woman. She wrote a program for a computer that did not exist yet. Nobody believed her. She was right about everything. And every language war you see online, Python versus JavaScript, Rust versus C++, none of it matters for the reason you think. The real story is much older and much darker. This video will tell you the full story. Not the tutorial, not the course, the story. Where programming languages came from, why they were built, who built them, and why the choices those people made in tiny underfunded rooms still control everything you touch today. By the end of this video, you will never look at code the same way again. And we will get to the part where the United States government officially told programmers which language to use. That is coming. Let us go back. 1843. A woman named Ada Lovelace wrote the world's first algorithm, by hand, for a machine that did not exist yet. She was the daughter of the poet Lord Byron. Brilliant, obsessive, ahead of every person around her. Her notes on Charles Babbage's analytical engine described something nobody had ever imagined. A machine that could be instructed, programmed. Nobody took her seriously. She died at 36, and her ideas sat in dusty archives for over 100 years. Then World War II happened, and suddenly everyone needed computers. The military needed to calculate missile trajectories. Scientists needed to crack encrypted enemy messages. Code had to be written fast, under pressure, with lives on the line. But there was a problem, a massive problem. Stay here, because this problem is why every language in this video exists. Every computer spoke a different language, and humans did not speak any of them. Because at that point, programming was not typing words into a screen. It was flipping switches, punching holes in cards, writing raw binary, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. Try building the internet with that. The people who built early computers realized something terrifying. If humans had to speak binary, computers would never be useful. They were too slow, too error-prone. So someone had a wild idea. What if the computer could translate? What if you could write something slightly closer to English and the machine would figure out the rest? That idea, that one single idea, is the reason every app, game, website, and AI model exists today. And it started with a woman named Grace Hopper. She built the first compiler, a machine that could read human-like code and translate it into binary instructions. When she presented it, her colleagues said it was impossible. They said computers cannot understand English. She proved them wrong, and in doing so, she accidentally started a war that is still happening today, the war over which language is best. Let us start at the bottom. Below every language you have ever heard of, there's a layer nobody talks about. It's called assembly language. Assembly is basically machine code with names. Instead of typing 01001111, you type MOVAX5. Move the number 5 into memory slot AX. Not much better, honestly, but it was a start. The problem with assembly was that it was specific to each chip. Write code for one machine and it wouldn't run on another. Write it again and again and again. By the 1960s, programmers were exhausted. Then two men at Bell Labs, Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, built something new. They called it C. C was closer to English, but it was still brutally efficient. It talked directly to hardware. It was fast. Dangerously fast. C became the language that built the internet's foundations. Unix, Linux, Windows, all built with C. C was invented in 1972, over 50 years ago. It's still running your world right now. It runs on satellites orbiting the Earth, on chips inside medical devices keeping people alive, on the braking system in your car. The old languages do not die, they just go invisible. By the 1980s, programs were getting complex, too complex for any one person to hold in their head. So a new idea emerged. What if instead of writing instructions, you wrote objects, real-world things, a car object, a bank account object, a user object, each with its own properties and behaviors? This was called object-oriented programming, and it changed everything. C++ was born. It was C, but with objects bolted on top. Powerful, but dangerous. One mistake and your entire program crashed, or worse, ran perfectly but did the wrong thing silently. Programmers hated C++. They also couldn't stop using it. Then, in 1995, a team at Sun Microsystems asked, what if code could run anywhere? Write it once, it works on every machine. They called it Java. Java exploded. Banks, hospitals, government systems, enterprise software everywhere. Java still powers the back end of most global banking infrastructure today. That slow old bank app that feels like it was built in 2003? It was, and it's still running on Java code from 2003. Some systems are too big to replace. We'll come back to that. Then the internet happened, and everything broke. Suddenly, code needed to run inside a browser window, on a web page, in real time, right in front of users. In 1995, a programmer named Brendan Eich was given 10 days to build a language for web browsers. 10 days. He built JavaScript. It was messy. It had quirks. It had bugs baked into the design. One of the most famous, type 0.1 plus 0.2 in JavaScript. You don't get 0.3, you get 0.30000100004. And yet, JavaScript became the most used programming language on the planet, used by over 98% of all websites, because it was there, and it worked, mostly. The most dominant language ever built was made in 10 days, with known design flaws. Meanwhile, a Dutch programmer named Guido van Rossum was building something totally different. He wanted a language that was beautiful, readable, almost like plain English. He called it Python. Python was slow, much slower than C, but it didn't matter because it was easy. Scientists used it, researchers used it, beginners used it. And then something unexpected happened. AI happened. Python became the language of machine learning, of data science, of the entire AI revolution. The slow language won. And coming up next, the language the NSA officially told the world to switch to. That really happened. By the 2000s, the cracks were showing. JavaScript was too many quirks. C++ was too dangerous. Java was too slow for new systems. Python was too slow for production at scale. New languages started appearing. Google built Go. Clean, fast, simple, designed for massive server systems. No drama, just performance. Microsoft built TypeScript, JavaScript but with strict rules, so you couldn't accidentally destroy your own app with a single typo. Apple built Swift. After years of Objective-C, a language so strange it looked like an alien invented it, Swift arrived clean, readable, modern. And then there was Rust. Rust was built to solve one of the oldest and deadliest problems in programming, memory safety. For decades, C and C++ programmers would accidentally leave memory open, like leaving a door unlocked in your house. Other programs could walk right in. This caused some of the biggest software hacks in history. Rust made that impossible, by design. You physically couldn't write a Rust program with that bug. In 2022, the NSA released an official statement recommending that companies stop using C and C++ and switch to memory-safe languages like Rust. The United States government told programmers which language to use. Here's what the language wars are really about. It's not about which language is best. That's a trap. Every language was built to solve a specific problem in a specific time for specific constraints. C was built for hardware with kilobytes of memory. Java was built for a world before mobile existed. Python was built for readability, not speed. JavaScript was literally built in 10 days. None of them are perfect. All of them are exactly right for the problem they were solving. Think of it like tools in a toolbox. You don't criticize a screwdriver for not being a hammer. You pick the right tool for the job. And the logic underneath every single language is identical. Variables, loops, conditions, functions. These exist in every language ever written. The syntax changes. The thinking never does. But now comes the dark part. What happens when the old code never goes away? Most of the world's most critical systems run on code nobody fully understands anymore. The original programmers are retired or dead. The documentation is missing or wrong, and the systems are too big and too connected to replace. There are banks running COBOL code written in the 1960s. COBOL, a language designed for mainframes and punch cards. COBOL processes over $95 billion in transactions every single day. They can't replace it because one mistake could crash the entire financial system. It's like trying to replace an engine while the car is driving at 100 miles an hour. So the legacy code stays. It gets patched, wrapped in newer code that speaks to it, but the original code sits underneath, quietly running, holding the world together. Here's what this all means.
Programming languages are not about computers. They never were. They're about humans. They're about reducing the distance between what you can imagine and what you can build. Every language was born from frustration, from someone who looked at the existing tools and said, "This is not good enough. I can do better." Ada Lovelace did it in 1843. Grace Hopper did it in 1952. Brendan Eich did it in 10 days in 1995. The history of programming is the history of human ambition. If you're learning to code right now, here's what I want you to remember. The language you choose does not define you. The problems you solve do. You are not a Python developer or a JavaScript developer. You are a problem solver who's currently using Python or JavaScript. The best engineers in the world did not start with the right language. They started with the right question. What do I want to build? Start there. The language will follow. Because somewhere, right now, someone is writing the next language, the one that solves a problem we have not discovered yet. And there is no reason that person cannot be you.